you found me. Why Not Results? And so I moved up to Phoenix in 2012 and fell in love with this part of Phoenix, Central Phoenix, and didn't really realize what district I lived in. I'll be honest. I'm a small town kid, and I'm used to only having one group of representatives to think about.
Well, a lot of people don't know what their legislative districts are, or their congressional districts, or what their school board district is. So it's a common thing.
I had no idea. It's made me feel very foolish and naive and apathetic. The fact that I wasn't looking into understanding more about the political environment, the different districts, school board district. I had no idea. You spanned over, you said 4 districts for one school board?
For one school board. I'm on the Paradise Valley School Board. It's one of our largest school districts, and it's in legislative district 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Wow. I mean, that's just massive. So how many kids are in that district?
The district is 100 square miles, and currently we have about 24,000 kids in the district. We used to have over 32,000, but over the past 10 years, we have been slowly losing enrollment.
That's pretty consistent across all the school districts,
Arizona.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing that across the nation too, that
That's
people
correct.
are running into this problem all over the place. I was really surprised. I was talking to somebody who was affiliated with the Mesa School District, and I was appalled. Not really appalled. I just couldn't believe the size of the budget. And this was the finance director of that area that I got to know. Our daughters danced together. I had no idea the budget was so massive.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people don't understand that. Over half of our state budget in Arizona goes to education.
Had no idea. I think they were like having a meltdown because it was going from like $1 billion budget to like $750 million budget.
Well, Mesa is our largest school district in Arizona.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
So a Paradise Valley School District, I mean, what are we looking at budget-wise there?
In the multiple millions of dollars.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. How long have you been doing that?
I'm on my 4th year in the school district. One of the reasons I ran for school board is because I had a son in the district.
Makes sense.
And we, when COVID hit, he was doing online school, and this is a typical story for a lot of people. He was doing online school, and I decided right then I was going to get more involved, and so I kind of gave him a choice. He was frustrated because he wasn't really learning on the online school, and that was through nobody's fault, right? We didn't know what to expect.
COVID was tough.
It was 15 days to slow the spread, so we didn't know we were going to be online so long.
Right.
However, it was not a good experience for my son. It is for some. We have some great online schools, but not for my son. So that was one of the eye-opening things and why I wanted to get more involved in the schools.
My daughters were they struggled with online school. That was not a good environment for them at all. So my daughters they went to private school. So there were additional options that I realized that the public school just didn't have the availability to do, which makes sense. But I've learned a lot. So I'm from Florence originally, 6th generation Arizonan, and had businesses down there. And the school districts and the kids have always been my passion.
Yep.
Right, and I try to understand and get clear to the point where I've got my sub certificate.
Great.
Just because I want to be in the classroom and try to help not sit there and be the squawker who's complaining about the problems, but actually kind of let's come to the table with some solutions.
Great.
And as a business owner, how can I rally my business constituents to groups, colleagues to how can we help schools?
And that's exactly why I ran for school board, not to be a squawker, as you say, but to bring some real solutions to the table. I have over 30 years of experience in business, technology. I did a little jaunt with veterinary medicine as well. And so I have a vast amount of knowledge and experiences. But I'm one of those that if I don't like the way something is working, I'm going to jump in and try to help. So I did volunteer in the classroom. When my son was little, he was getting bullied and he was kind of struggling a bit. And so I had a commute not too far from here. I was working at Alta Vista Veterinary Hospital. I was running that place. I was one of the practice managers there.
Okay.
And it was hard because I was living in North Scottsdale, and every time he had an issue, I had to leave work early and go. And so finally, my husband and I had that tough conversation that, well, maybe you should work part-time initially, and then I ended up quitting my job to support my son because that's one of the most important things as a parent, is to support your child. So I made that tough decision, even though I loved my job.
Oh, I'm really happy to hear you say that, and I think more and more people are recognizing the fact that not having more of that parental engagement is challenging.
It is.
For our children and that become young adults. So that's really awesome to hear that you did that. So again, like I told you, I'm kind of I've never really been good at getting to know my candidates and knowing about the different districts. So I'm really happy to I appreciate you inviting me to be part of this. So thank you for that.
You're
So I
welcome.
kind of have some questions just about your past, right? If you don't mind. So I think you said you weren't born here. You were raised, where's your family from?
New Mexico.
New Mexico.
So I grew up in New Mexico. I'm a multi-generational New Mexican. My ancestors came from Texas, New Mexico, and some in California. But our ancestors were here before this was even part of the United States, so that kind of tells you how long we've been here. Before the Gadsden Purchase, before Arizona was even a state. So we have a long tradition. But I do want to clarify something. I think that Republicans, and I am a conservative, Republicans get a bad rap in education because they think that we're not pro public school. I went to public school. My husband went to all my family members went to public school. I raised my son in Scottsdale, and he graduated from Horizon High School, so he's a local boy. He's a local Arizonan, born and raised, which is kind of rare these days. But I do support public schools, and that's why I'm on a school board.
Gotcha. And that makes sense of how you got to that position, why you got involved. And so I guess that's going to kind of lead me to the next question. Like, at what point, what switch went off? Like, I want to go get away from school board, and I'm going to take it to the next level. State legislature.
That's a great question. So while I am enjoying my time on the Paradise Valley School Board, I love serving, I have a heart of service, I want to make schools centers of academic excellence. And me being a kind of voice of the people, because that's where I got my nickname on that school board, being the voice of the people, being the voice of reason, voting 1 to 4 many times against certain things that I don't really think are benefiting our schools, that's not going to get it done. So I am running for District 4 State House of Representatives to ensure our schools become centers of academic excellence. And with that, I'm a very strong Christian conservative, and I always pray before I do things. I prayed over a year before I made this decision. It didn't come lightly to me, but I feel very equipped. A couple years ago, I worked for the Arizona Department of Education, and I was ombudsman, and I was a constituent services manager. Do you know what an ombudsman is?
I have never heard of that. Please.
It's just a fancy word that means you help others. So we have ombudsmen in our school districts and usually the teachers associations, they'll have an ombudsman. So in case somebody in the teachers association or any certified or employee in the district, if they have an issue, they have an advocate for them. Well, that's what an ombudsman does at the state level as well. People call in and they don't know where to go because, as you know, sometimes our government can be big and a bit of a bureaucracy and have a lot of red tape. So an ombudsman really helps direct you to the right person when you have an issue.
You have a question if you want to take a question real quick.
Sure.
So real quick, Natalie Lizarraga said, how do you hope to change the public's view of conservatives in education through your campaign?
That's a great question. Thank you, Natalie, for asking that. Well, I believe that schools, as I mentioned before, need to be centers of academic excellence. I think we've lost our way in education. We want to provide every single need for the child, and we have to get education right. We have to get back to the fundamentals of reading, writing, math, science, and the arts as well. I think some school districts, unfortunately, have gone away from the arts, but the arts are a very valid curriculum in there because they deal with math, they deal with creativity, and I think it helps students become better. So I think getting back to fundamentals. Also, I see some opportunities to correct some wasteful spending in our schools. And if we do that, then we can also support other things because then we have more. We don't have to tax more, but if we find areas that can be a little more streamlined and we can save our taxpayers money, then it's a win-win.
So let's talk about streamlining, because as you were talking about that, what you mentioned, how do you feel like, because AI is streamlining so much,
It is.
right? So I would think that there'd be an opportunity to make our school systems more efficient.
Yes.
Kind of, if you don't mind, peel back the layers of your thought process on how AI and education.
Yes.
I'm kind of curious from an administrative standpoint, how you kind of see that getting involved, and then also in the classroom itself. What do you?
Well,
Maybe that's too broad a question.
Well, no, not really. A lot of people don't realize that in schools, we've been using AI for a long time. Not just teachers that come and check to make sure that students are not plagiarizing their essay on Plato, but we have also used them when my son was young, and I didn't even realize that it was AI, but they use Khan Academy, and it's just
Khan Academy is
different.
amazing.
Yeah, different tools that students can use to learn. I have mixed feelings about AI in the classroom. My school district, Paradise Valley, is in support, and I do support technology and AI. However, I've asked a lot of questions, and they're telling me that they're implementing AI with guardrails. My background is technology and IT. Right now, you probably know this too, there are not a lot of guardrails with AI. And so I think we need to look at ways to implement it in a way that will support student learning, but also to protect our students, because our youngest learners can get into things that they should not be getting into.
It's totally scary. It's been very eye-opening, and
Yeah.
I'm so thankful that I have a 19 and 22-year-old child, and I'm not trying to contend with an 8-year-old and what they're hearing from their
Yep.
kids on their cell phones, because now the 8-year-olds have cell phones, and so I'm assuming some of those kids are probably putting ChatGPT on their phone. What are they finding, right? So it's got to be such a big problem for the public administration to administer a policy, right? How do you put something in
Yes.
there that canvases where you're going to make all the parents happy? That's got to be an impossible task.
You can't do that. But I will say some pluses and minuses about AI in the schools. So there is a school in North Scottsdale called the Alpha School, and they're doing AI the right way. They don't have teachers in the traditional sense. They have more of mentors and coaches. And so when I visited and toured that facility, there was somebody coming from outside with a group of students, and I asked, what are you all doing? And they were changing a tire. And so what they use AI for is to facilitate like the Khan Academy type, and they will do their lessons, but it's more of a Montessori type, and they're able to run at their own pace. So they're doing it right. My concern is some of the things that the public schools are doing. They're thinking that these tools are safe, and I have some examples of when they haven't been safe. So we do need to look at legislation to ensure that there are guardrails.
All right, I'm going to put you in the hot seat right here.
Okay.
All right, as a parent,
Yes.
what is your opinion of cell phones in the classroom?
Okay. So
That's a big one.
It is a big one. So the state has done a good job of trying to help with that issue because they're a distraction. Honestly, they are a distraction. As a conservative, I go back and forth with this because it is personal property, and there's
Right.
some liberties. And in the past, students that have had their cell phones with them during emergency situations have been able to contact their parents. Well, that could be a good or a bad thing. We had an instance at Horizon High School where my son was, where there was not clear communication coming to the parents, and so they caused a lot of paranoia, getting different messaging from our students on, is it emergent? It ended up being like a sewer leak or something. It really, wasn't, and it was resolved, but it took a while. And so I have mixed feelings. I think we need to look at not having them in the classroom for distraction purposes, but we also need to protect liberties and property.
Real quick, we have 2 more questions.
All right.
Take 2 questions real quick.
Sure.
So the first one's from Sharon Black. She said, kind of on this topic, safety in our community and in our schools is so important.
It
Do
is.
you have an idea on how to strengthen the safety for said students? Kind of staying on the same topic. And then we have another one if you want to take
Okay.
that one after.
So in terms of safety for our students, I think the administration in the different school districts as well as the state have done a good job of trying to get more school resource officers in the schools. And a lot of people don't understand the difference between an SRO, which is a school resource officer, and an armed guard, or a gun for hire, if you will. The school resource officers are a great resource for us because they actually help with teaching too. A lot of people don't know that they're vetted. They
I had no idea.
oh yeah, the school resource officers are amazing, and they can teach. They can teach lessons, and then it helps students give them that comfortable presence to be able to approach police officers, so that stigma of
Makes sense.
being afraid of them goes away. So that's one thing. Safety can also be for mental health. I know that the districts do a lot of things with mental health. So at the state level, there are grants, and so you can have a school resource officer, or you can hire a social worker or something like that. So it's not just a hired gun.
I never thought about that.
Yep.
Is that what you do have from a safety standpoint of someone's mental health, maybe being bullied or whatever else,
Yes.
going at home or outside from some, I never, thankfully I haven't had to
Yeah.
deal with that.
And it's a balance. We can't get enough school resource officers, though, sadly, because the way the laws are written, they have to be Phoenix PD, Scottsdale PD, and my district. They have to be active police. I think the state is looking at different things, perhaps thinking outside the box, doing retired military. Obviously vetted people, because you can't have people that shouldn't be working with kids, but we're thinking outside the box.
I just found that out from a retired police officer, that he has to stay on duty
Yes.
just so, because he is one of these.
School resource officer.
Yeah, school resource officer. But he has to still do, I forget how many days a month within the PD, so that he retains his
Yes.
active license.
Yeah.
Just so we can do the SRO.
Yeah.
I
We
had no
love our
idea.
SROs. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Was there another question?
We did have another question. Sorry. Money Smart Family said, what can you do as a legislator to protect the ESA program from fraud, but also from the governor's veto pen?
Yes, that's a great question. So when I worked for the state,
What's the question again?
okay, so the question,
Clarify the question.
talks about ESAs. ESA is an empowerment scholarship account. Some people call them vouchers. They're not vouchers. They're empowerment scholarship accounts.
Oh, yeah.
And the difference is it's called backpack funding. So that funding, when a student leaves a district, we'll use even numbers. So $15,000 will go to the state, but when they leave to do either private school or homeschooling, about half of that can go to the parents to pay for things, so about $7,500. So I will be strong to protect ESAs. I believe in school choice. My son was in public school. However, we did school choice within our district, but one size does not fit all in education. So I will do everything I can to protect choice, because that is fundamental to learning.
Interesting. There's just so many nuances with
There is.
the government and the law, and everyone
Yeah.
understands. And you guys having to navigate and vote on all these different things. I just don't envy you. Thank you for being willing to put yourself out there in the hot seat. I think most of us just don't understand what politicians go through, whether it's the election process and then what you're dealing with day in and day out,
Yeah.
and all answering to your constituents and those who are happy and love you, and then those who are
Yeah.
opposed to your opinion.
Well, it's very interesting that you say that, because I like talking with all my constituents, and some people are not happy with certain things that I vote for or against, but I believe that as a legislator or a school board member, any elected official is responsible to meet with their constituents and hear them out, even if they don't necessarily align on everything. We have to hold them accountable, because we are a constitutional republic.
Right.
We are not a democracy, as some people say. That means the elected officials that we put in office represent your voice. And so that's what I hope to be in District 4. I'm already that on the Paradise Valley School Board, but I want to be the voice of the people in District 4.
I really hope that our children will do a better job of recognizing how we've become so divisive.
Yes.
And all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm a Democrat, so I'm only going to
Yes.
talk to Democrats, or I'm Republican, and I'm hoping that they are using that as a bad example of how
Yes.
to move forward and be open-minded
Yes.
to having a conversation, a change my mind conversation. Why do you think because obviously we all have our opinions based off of how we were raised. We're products of our environment, right?
Yeah.
And our family upbringing and everything. So I know as a parent, I tried to do my best to get my kids just to be free thinkers. Like,
Yes.
don't paint yourself into a
Right.
corner here, and talk to the other side. I hope as, over the next 10, 20 years, that our politicians will be more open to that.
Yes.
And you seem to be a kind of someone that is of that opinion as well.
Absolutely. Well, I have two funny but short stories on that.
Love to hear it.
Growing up, I grew up in New Mexico, and my dad was excited to hear who I voted for the first time. And I'm Latina, grew up in New Mexico, and most people there are Democrat. So I was a registered Democrat as a teenager. And my dad asked me, who did you vote for president? And I said, Ross Perot, very proudly. And I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't know Democrat, Republican, Independent. But his face almost fell off. He's like, what the heck are you doing? We don't vote that way. We vote Democrat. And then when I asked him why, he told me because they're for the people. They're for poor people. And it didn't make sense
Your
to
dad
me
said
at the
that.
time. My father said that.
Interesting.
It didn't make sense to me because Ross Perot was a businessman and my dad was a businessman. And so it was very interesting. And then fast forward to now I'm on a school board. When I first got on the board, I kind of went scorched earth and I was like, I'm going to do Republican things and talk about Republican values and things like that. And I kind of was not kind to the other school board members, right? So I kind of, after a couple of months, I thought, okay, I told you I'm a Christian, so I was thinking, okay, Lord, why do you have me on this board? And he's like, well, I didn't put you on that board to make enemies. And so I started trying to find commonalities. So one of the people that was sitting next to me on the board, we couldn't be further apart politically, but I thought, what do we have in common? And we both loved our kids, and we both were parents in the district. And so that's where I started. And I think more of us really need to do that. We need to look at the common thread.
Yeah.
Where do we align? And
Fundamentals as humans.
Fundamentals, but it doesn't mean that you water down what you believe. It just means look at people like humans, not as Democrat, Republican, Independent.
Little
And so
grace and
that's-
patience.
That's my heart. Yep.
All right, that's good. I think that's an important quality of any politician that I want to vote for personally. I really, I'm not a party line person. I just, and that's going to lead me into my next question because I heard something that I would love some clarification on.
Sure.
I'm currently registered independent, I believe, and I think I heard somewhere the other day that I didn't realize. I've always thought that I couldn't vote in the primaries.
Yeah, that's not true. Not true. So what you have to do is you have to request a ballot, and you can request a Democrat or a Republican ballot as an independent. You guys are the superpower. Arizona has a huge population of independents, and you guys are really the ones that decide. So it's very interesting. A lot of people don't know that they can't.
I had no idea. I
that
thought I was
can't vote
excluded.
No,
I thought I was
you're
only
not
there for the
excluded.
general. So but I have to call down to the the polling office or wherever and they'll send me either Democrat or Republican,
Yeah, you have to request it.
one or the other.
Yes, you
I
can't.
can't
You can't
go-
do both. You can't do both.
Well, that's
But
kind
you
of
can-
so if I want to vote for a particular, but this is only in the primaries. So then I
In
can
the
go either
primaries.
direction when I get to the
Right, in
general.
the general, you can vote for anybody.
But that way I can help the people that I want, like yourself. I can help
Yes.
get you in there. Okay, so all you independents out there,
Yes.
find who you're back and request that ballot. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. It is a big deal, and for the independents out there, you're a big part of Arizona, and I think it speaks volumes on a little bit about what we're talking about. The rhetoric on both sides. There are extreme views on both sides. The majority of us are here in the middle, right there with you, independents, and it's very important to vet your candidates, to support and hold us to the fire, because from school board on up to the president, we are elected to be your voice. And so it's very important that you call us and talk to us and make sure that we are representing your values.
So one of the things I love about what you're doing and that we need to make sure everybody knows is that you are going live. You're making yourself available
Yes,
twice a week.
yes,
Twice a week. So those people who do want to reach out to you, you're not hiding behind a video.
I'm not.
You're putting yourself out here live, like we've just had a couple questions now. And so that's a unique opportunity for us to be able to get some questions answered and put you on the hot seat.
Yeah,
See what you believe
absolutely.
to see if I actually do want to vote for you or not.
100%.
So far, you got my vote. I love it. I
Thank
love
you.
I love what I'm hearing. There was another question I had that was pertaining to voting, and I heard something else that was kind of peculiar. So please clarify this for
Okay.
me. I thought I heard somewhere that I was under the impression that the primary election days and that was just that one day to vote. So I've always been under the impression that I had that one day to go into the polls.
Right. So our election day this year is July 21st, but it's kind of a misnomer because we have an election month, really.
So we have an election period.
So at end of June, so this time is an opportunity for us to vote the earliest we've ever been able to vote in a primary. So the mail-in ballots and in-person voting start at the end of June, around June 24th. And so one of the concerns with a lot of people having our election July 21st, that's when a lot of people are on vacation. Nobody's here in July, right? It's too hot. And
here.
so the schools start back for the most part in August. So for those of you that are planning on being on vacation in July, just know that you can do both either mail-in ballots or in-person voting starting at the end of June. It's
And
very
I
important.
personally don't. I don't trust the mail-in ballots that it's actually happening. So I want to go to the poll.
Yes.
But you're right. I don't in the middle of June or July, I guess.
Yeah, July 21st.
I don't want to stand outside.
Yep.
110-degree line. I'm thinking lines.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe I'm out of town. So I was really happy to hear. Thanks for clarifying that
Yes.
because that is a big deal for me. I will make sure I get out and vote. And I think a lot of people don't get out there and vote because they think they only have that one day.
Right. Right. Well, I have always done in-person voting on election day, but in the last couple of cycles, I've helped at the polls. I've either worked at the polls or I've helped candidates with their literature. And so I've learned that the lines are a lot shorter if you go in person before election day.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. I will say, though, there is some nuances there. Your vote doesn't get cast immediately. There are no tabulators before Election Day, so that's another just slight thing. Whereas in Election Day, your vote goes through the tabulators.
So
and
all
then
these
you know.
polls that we hear out there, I always wonder
Yes.
about those polls.
Yes.
They seem to be so skewed, and I don't want to get into that's a whole other conversation. And so I do have so if I were wanting to engage and help
Yes.
yourself or anybody else, what does that look like? I just need to reach out to you.
Yes.
So
Yeah, you can go to-
website. Where are we going to?
My website is sandraforaz.com. That's SANDRAFORAZ.com. And we're running a people-powered campaign. I don't have big donors. I don't have a lot of money. But if you can donate, that would be amazing.
Takes money.
Yes, it does. It's expensive to do podcasts and other things. But you can donate in any way. I have some people that don't want to go door knocking. I don't know if you know what door knocking is. It's going door to door.
I get the concept.
But I have some people that just want to write letters or just want to have signs out for people to come and take them if they want to put yard signs out for me. So there's so many ways to
Are there any
to
specific
volunteer.
areas that you specifically need help out? Obviously, donation is always a big deal. Politics.
Donation is a big deal.
Huge.
A big deal. But just getting my name out there. So talk to your neighbors about me and share my website and campaign stuff.
Share these
That
things
would
right
be
here.
great. These things, yeah.
Every Tuesday, Thursday, you're going
every
live.
Tuesday,
on here.
Thursday.
And, well, that's great. It's been fantastic getting to know you.
Yeah.
So I commend you for being willing to do this and get live and answer questions. That's
Yeah.
just
Well, thank you for being my first guest here. It's been fun. I didn't know what to expect.
it can only get better from here.
Oh, it's gonna.
You got your worst guess out of the way,
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
but you've done great. Thanks so much for this, and good luck to your campaign and
Thank
everything.
you.
And wish you all the best.
Thank you. Well, thanks to my guest, Mario. I'm Sandra Christensen, and again, I'm running for District 4 State House of Representatives, and I'm here to be your voice. This is Sandra signing off as the Voice of the People podcast. We're going live every Tuesday, Thursday at 1 o'clock.